Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Path of the Prophets. So I'm currently at the pyramids outside of Cairo. Behind me you can see the skyline of Cairo. It's been interesting to me staying in old Cairo and seeing the designs of the buildings and just considering, and I've also spent some time in the Gulf previously, and when you go to Bahrain and certain areas of the Gulf, you'll see homes where there's very sophisticated air conditioning designs built into the structures to circulate air and to bring hot air out and bring cool air in, and quite ingenious in some instances. And I know there are areas around the world where they've developed this kind of architecture, and it amazes me when I look at Cairo and I look at areas in the Gulf where they're building giant buildings. Some of these are quite old, and then they're made to have air conditioning units. Many of them, the windows don't open and they're made for central air. Super inefficient. And they're not, it's like, say you'll have these multi-story buildings right next to the Nile where the air is cooler and there's lots of wind, and they could actually build in some older styles, incorporating older engineering styles to circulate the air and to cool the air and even filter the air, to filter out the dust. There are so many amazing things that could be done, and it amazes me how inefficient the buildings have been made, and many of them are falling apart now, and they eat up tremendous amounts of electricity. And it's like, so a lot of dams are built to generate electricity, and I had been reading about how the Nile no longer has a proper annual flooding throughout the whole country, throughout the Nile Valley, and that now the Mediterranean is actually eating away the shoreline of Egypt, and that Egypt is no longer growing, because before the Nile Delta would extend further and further out, because that's the way that rivers work. Rivers will send out silt, and so it's like, in the U.S., Louisiana is growing, like in Brazil is growing because of the Amazon, and this is quite typical. And then here, the river is shrinking because of the damming, and then we see the potential water issues that are related to this with neighboring nations. And inshallah, peace shall be maintained, and we won't see future issues. So anyway, little camel pause here. Let's scoot over here. So anyway, it's interesting that hopefully we will not have the predicted water wars between nations. We've already seen tensions arise over water rights, and it's just interesting that if we want to prevent, because we should always be thinking, like, if you consider yourself to be a Muslim, you have the word salama within your name. So Islam should be the deen of peace. It's not manifested as such right now because we're not reaching our potential as an ummah. We have not yet nearly reached our potential as an ummah. And the Jahili era is still very deeply embedded within the ummah, and we have to come into a spiritual maturation. So as a deen of peace, that means that we need to cultivate reconciliation, peacemaking, harmonizing traits, characteristics, and qualities. This is the way of the prophets. Peace be upon all of them. So this peacemaking, this harmonizing, this reconciliation needs to take place. And so it's interesting because you wouldn't think about building design and architecture as being a peacemaking endeavor. And yet it's very important that we, because right now you got a lot of devilish people that they're twisting. We should have eco-friendly designs. We should aim for sustainability, but not for what they're talking about. Just like there is a righteous form of vegetarianism, for real, used as a purifying mechanism. There's veganism or being an herbivore. It's a pure way of eating to cleanse the body, cleanse the mind, to recognize one's egoistic desires and addictions to animal flesh and one's own disrespect of other creatures. So it can be a very valuable spiritual tool, as many of the prophets have been vegetarian, peace be upon all of them, or have spent substantial portions of their lives or their years as vegetarians. Many of them were semi-vegetarian. Some of them were completely vegetarian for long periods of time. We'll discuss that in other videos, inshallah. But when we look into these things, we need to discipline ourselves, and we need to think about every aspect of life in terms of peacemaking and harmonizing, including our building designs and how we interact with. So actually, I kind of drifted off, but what I was seeking to say was that right now, certain, like, devils invert things and they flip things around backwards. And so there are righteous versions and dirty versions. And so, like, for instance, the veganism, they're suggesting that's all GMO and lab concocted. That's evil. For a lot, it's dirty, and it causes all kinds of illnesses and disease. It's not healthy for humanity. And whereas if you want to do an organic, plant-based cleanse, I would highly recommend it. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and your body and your desires and your addictions, and inshallah overcome them. But the same thing, they're talking about building design, and they want us to switch to like AI and more like they're talking about. It's interesting that everything is dependent on electrical grids, and they're talking about like alternative forms of energy, and yet much of what they're suggesting winds up being very problematic and is not what we have been led to believe. So I would love to see places like along the Nile, along the major rivers that are connected to other countries that share water resources, move toward utilizing the best of ancient and older technologies to circulate and clean air, and to generate energy, and to use less energy. And we need to go away from anything that is harmful to humans in the ecosystem. We need to clean up much better. We need to do better with our garbage. We need to do much better. We shouldn't even be creating these plastics. That's so dirty. And it's like, it is not the average person who's responsible for that. These are these corporations responsible, that they keep on churning this stuff out and then they blame it on us. And it's dirty. And it's wrong. And we can see this as we travel around the world. It's like, I've been in a number of countries where people have some really messed up ways of dealing with trash. They just drop trash out of cars. I'm watching it here in Egypt. I see it, like it's very rampant in India. Where people don't care for their environment. I see it in Turkey, in quite a few nature areas. And we have to do better. And I would love to see the Muslimin at the cutting edge of transforming ourselves and our world into in ethical and purifying ways. And because Dawah, most of the Dawah, if people are handing out pamphlets or engaging in debates, that's really weak Dawah, super weak. That is not what we should be doing. Real Dawah is in what we show and what we do through businesses and cultural practices, how we design our cities, our vehicles. We should be designing our own excellent vehicles. We should be doing so much better and so much more than we're doing, and not dependent on devils and people who are engaging in occultic networks, because this is harming us and it's harming our world. So we need to be on the cutting edge of anything organic, sustainable, eco-friendly, and not the devil version of these things, but the real human version, because we are to be the protectors and the caretakers of all ecosystems, of all creatures. This is the way of Adam alayhi salam. This is what we are intended to do, because we need to come into our spiritual maturity as quickly as possible right now, because we are threatened with extinction right now. And you need to take a look around. If you're not seeing what I'm saying, then you're not awake, and you don't know what's up. And you need to know what's up, or you're gone, done. And everybody that you love, gone, done. We cannot afford this. So we need to let go of our idolatries and our false conceptualizations of everything. Everything. We've been lied to about everything. The thing is, Islam is beautiful. You got to really wake up to what Islam really is, because It's not a rabbinic system. It's not a devil system. And if you're seeing elements of that, then that has been infiltrated and infiltrative, and that has been a form of sabotage, you know. So we need to purify our tradition. We need to purify ourselves, purify our bodies, purify our minds, purify our homes. We need to purify our lands and our peoples to the greatest extent possible. We have this opportunity to turn back their misuse of an opportunity, because they hate us, they despise us, they hate humanity. And too many humans right now are self-hating humans. Too many people. Ideology is a trap. Muslim supremacy, Christian supremacy, white supremacy, black supremacy, brown supremacy, supremacy of any nationality. It's all dirty, it's all dark and satanic, because the first supremacist is Iblis, the accursed. He's a gen supremacist. And his friends, those human sellouts, they're self-hating gen supremacists. That's why they always do humiliating things. They have to humiliate themselves. They have to humiliate the human form, degrade themselves, and then they have to try to corrupt us. And they spend all their time and energy working on this. We need to purify ourselves of all devil tech and all devilry. So give this some consideration. I believe in us. I believe that we are capable of so much more than this. I'm holding us up to high standards because people aren't holding us up to the standards we need to hold ourselves to. All these sellouts, astaghfirullah, dirty dogs, working for devils, behaving as devils, sealed hearts, destroying our rivers, destroying our ecosystems, destroying our families. So first, we need to do something about it by purifying ourselves. Purify our bodies, purify our minds, purify our environments. And I would love to see the Muslims on the cutting edge of all things organic, ethical, and purifying. This is our way. This is the way of the prophets. Peace be upon all of them and their inheritors. Till next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.